I'm not feeling optimistic about the future of Warzone 2. Now, when I say that, I don't mean it's like a dead game. I don't mean that people are going to stop playing it or they're going to lose money. It's already one of the most played games on Xbox and PlayStation. It's always up there in the kind of top games played even on Steam, which is the platform that probably has the least people playing Warzone. It's doing very well for itself. But me, personally, I'm just not feeling it. Especially with this new post from Call of Duty socials, where they talk about the Season 2 update being delayed until February 15th, and giving a few little hints about what we can expect to see in that season. To me, it's all pretty negative stuff, but I know some people are happy about it, so in this video, that's what we're going to get into. In the background, you've also got some gameplay of a game that I'm pretty proud of. I think I did pretty well in this game. I was really happy with it, so enjoy that too. And if you are enjoying it, don't forget to leave a like on the stream. So first of all, a few disclaimers, because I think this community kind of gets wrapped up in itself a little bit and does some crazy things. First of all, I'm not talking about what anyone else likes, what anyone else is into, why I think they like it. I don't want to try and speak for anyone else. There's a huge amount of that happening right now. Lots and lots of people saying, well, casual gamers like this, or old school gamers like this, or whatever. I'm not interested in any of that. I'm just talking about what I like, what I want, and I know it's different from a lot of people. I think the big difference between me and a lot of people who post content about Call of Duty is that I don't really care about it as a competitive game at all. For me, Call of Duty, and particularly Warzone and DMZ, is all about having a good time, like having a fun experience, having a kind of narrative in the games. I like there being a bit of a story. I like it when unexpected things happen. I like it when dramatic things happen. And of course, I do like it when I win, but that doesn't mean that I care about being the best Warzone player in the world. I would just like to be able to win some of the games that I play. I'm very aware that I'm not going to be going to Warzone tournaments or anything like that. So that's why I think my opinions often don't mesh very well with lots of other people, because I quite like things like skill-based matchmaking, because it ensures that I'm up against people who are at my skill level, and it means that sometimes I win games, sometimes I get beaten, but it doesn't matter. A lot of the time I have a good time, a lot of the time it's very close, and that to me is a very good thing. So a lot of the arguments about things that people want to change in Warzone 2, where people talk about RNG being a bad thing, like random things being a bad thing, or people talk about things being unpredictable, or people talk about there being less of a skill gap. I don't really see any of that as a bad thing. I kind of would like it if there's less of a skill gap, because it means there's probably more chance of me winning some games, and it also means my friends who don't actually play that much Warzone, they don't have that much time to play Warzone, they can have a good time too, because they can come in and sometimes manage to do awesome things, because they're not just getting constantly beaten by people who play a huge amount, people who are already very good at the game. I already did do a video on things I would like them to change in Warzone 2. I don't think Warzone 2 is perfect by any means. I think there's a lot of things wrong with it. But the new changes, the things that they're doing supposedly in response to things the community want, I think for me is going to make the game a little bit worse. It's going to make it a bit more boring. So let's just go back to the very start of Warzone 2 to explain what I mean. When Warzone 2 was first revealed, just before and kind of surrounding COD Next, they obviously had a really interesting vision for it, and it was very different from the product that we ended up playing. It was actually kind of a product that no one got to play outside of the studios. So originally there was meant to be AI all over the map, which people did see at COD Next. You know, there was AI in all houses and everything like that, and generally people didn't like that side of it. They didn't like that sometimes they were getting killed by AI. And I think that's fair enough, that I can understand Warzone is meant to be like a player versus player type thing, and people didn't like sometimes getting killed by the AI. Fair enough, that's absolutely fine. But then there were plenty of other new mechanics that I think were probably a good idea. So making loadouts way rarer, I think was really cool. Originally, apparently in Warzone 1, the idea was that there was only going to be 3 buy stations on every map. So it'd be like a big fight over those buy stations to try and get your loadout, but they decided against that. With Warzone 2, they decided that you were going to have to do a stronghold to get your loadout, or you were going to have to fight over one of the 5 free loadout drops that came quite late into the game, or you could buy one weapon from your loadout, and then it looked like you were going to have to buy other attachments and stuff like that. Now, we never got that version of the game, because when they played it at COD Next, they didn't have their loadout set up or anything. The accounts they were playing on didn't have anything unlocked, so they couldn't buy primary weapons, they couldn't buy attachments or anything like that. So we never got to see what that was like, but I always thought that would have been pretty awesome. You could see in the buy station graphics for when they did play COD Next that the guns had different values. So you could say something like, okay, we're looking at the meta right now, the RPK, the Fennec, the Akimbo pistols are really, really overpowered, they're doing really well. let's bump up the price of those, so you're going to have to get a substantial amount of money if you want to use those. I thought that'd be really cool because it'd mean way more people were using ground loot, way more people were having kind of interesting fights with the stuff they can find. They wouldn't have these incredible builds where they've got barely any recoil and incredible range and super fast fire rates or anything like that. And the developers could control the meta, control the balance way more easily just by taking weapons out of the ground loot every now and then, or shifting them around, making some things more expensive, making some things rarer. I just thought that would be nice and refreshing, because with Warzone 1, one of the things that I got super bored with was having the same fights over and over again for like a month at a time. You know, whenever a new patch came out, someone would work out what was the best gun to use, what was the best setup to use, and then in nearly all of the fights you had, you'd come across those same guns, you'd have those same kind of fights, the same sorts of ranges and everything like that. It just got very stale to me. So I liked this change. I liked the fact that loadouts were rarer. I liked that there were more people using ground loot. And in that first couple of weeks of Warzone 2, I really enjoyed the way it was there, even though they did take away the whole thing of weapons having different costs to them, and it was a little bit easier to get loadouts than we thought. It was still a little bit more interesting. A lot more people were using ground loot than they were in Warzone 1. But then they started making changes. People in the community were kicking off. They couldn't play the way that they used to play. They couldn't do the things they used to do. They weren't completely dominating like they used to. So they started removing things. They made it so you got your loadouts, the free loadouts, a lot earlier. They made it so you could buy primary weapons much more cheaply. Then they even added loadouts back in as something that you could buy. So they made it much easier, and now we're in a situation where with Warzone 2, I'm seeing RPKs all the time, I'm seeing Fenix all the time, Akimbo pistols, all of those things. It's just happening all over again. We've got the same meta all the time. There are some other differences, obviously, with Warzone 2 compared to Warzone 1, like you have the looting system that's very different. I'm not a big fan of that. I don't think it's massively interesting, like picking up loads of armor plates or loads of self-revives or loads of kill streaks or whatever, and having to do that little bit of inventory management. I just don't think it's ever made a match more interesting to me than anything else. It's fine. I don't absolutely hate it, but if they got rid of it, I don't really care too much. And then they also changed the gulag, obviously. That was a massive change, that it went from 1v1 gulags to 2v2 gulags. So now, instead of every gulag match being the same, where, you know, with the original gulag, I think most people just had a kind of strategy of how they would do it. And then most of the time, you know, if you were fairly good, you would win that fight a lot of the time because there's very little RNG in it. It was just you against one other player, and nearly every gulag match would go the exact same way, which was good if you're a highly skilled player. It made it very, very easy, but it also didn't ever make it very memorable. With the 2v2 gulags, sometimes you'll get an absolute demon on your team, and then you'll just wipe the other team, and that'll be absolutely awesome. Sometimes you'll get someone who's absolutely useless and kind of AFK, and you're having to try and clutch it up, which can be frustrating, but also if you do manage to clutch it up, that's absolutely awesome. That feels great. And most of the time, I'd say like 90% of the time, you've got another player who's probably a bit like you. Sometimes you'll be able to communicate. Sometimes you'll have like a cool backs and forwards fight. Like you'll pick off one of the enemy players really quickly, but then they'll pick off your teammate really quickly. So now you've got this kind of tense moment of being left in the 1v1. I think it's really cool. I don't think the Jailer's particularly interesting. I've literally never seen a team ever kill the Jailer. And I was watching Jack Frag's video yesterday, and he was saying the same thing, that he's never seen it happen either. So that I don't care about too much. But the 2v2 gulag, I think that's interesting. I think that's a lot of fun. It might not always be as fair as the 1v1 thing, but like I said at the beginning of the video, I kind of like stuff just being a little bit RNG, a little bit more dramatic, a little bit more exciting and having a story rather than every match feeling the same. But anyway, let's get on with the changes that have been talked about with Season 2, the delayed Season 2 that's coming up. They posted this image that says Season 2 will be launching on February 15th, so that's about a 2-week delay. I don't think there's that much you can read into that. It's probably just they aren't going with their original plan. They're changing things up a little bit, and they needed a bit of extra time to do that. I think that in itself is kind of a negative thing. Like, they obviously had an original plan of how all of these systems would work, how future maps would work. You know, any maps they're introducing now were obviously designed around the way Warzone was, you know, a year ago, 6 months ago, something like that. Any changes to that means that things are probably going to be buggier, things are probably going to be less balanced, things are probably going to be a bit more rushed, which is not good with the state that Warzone 2 is already in. But anyway, launching February 15th, so launching in like a month, says our studio teams have been making several changes based on what we have heard from our player community. That always worries me, just because I know, in terms of online at least, you know, in terms of Twitter, I know I'm in the minority, so it's like, oh good, they're listening to those people who I disagree with. That's a shame. And it says Season 2 includes all new content with the return of Resurgence and brand new small map for Warzone 2.0. Ranked play is also back and coming to Modern Warfare 2 along with new multiplayer maps, new modes, weapons and much more. Stay tuned for additional intel. So let's just pick that apart very quickly. First of all, Season 2 includes all new content. So that means things that we haven't seen before, I think. So I think that means we're not going to be getting remakes. We're not going to be getting Terminal or High Rise or Rust or something like that in multiplayer. It's all brand new stuff, which is kind of interesting. I also partly don't believe them, because when they then go on to talk about modes, I think we might see some old classic modes, but I'll talk about that in a second. So it says, return of Resurgence and a brand new small map for Warzone 2.0. I know there had been like leaks and stuff like that circulating about that. So, like, this is less of a surprise because the leaks kind of spoiled that. But, I mean, this isn't exactly the most exciting reveal anyway. So, yep, we're getting Resurgence back. We're getting a brand new small map, so it's not Rebirth, it's not Fortune's Keep or anything like that. Something completely new. That's kind of cool. It'll be interesting. When I say brand new, does that mean it's nothing we've seen before? Or will it be part of maybe the Mexican map, like Las Almas and things like that? Absolutely no idea. But it'll be interesting, and that's probably the thing in all of this I'm most excited about. I love exploring a new map. I always hope there'll be like Easter eggs and secrets and stuff like that. So that's really cool. That's something definitely happy about. Definitely happy to have Resurgence back too. I think that's a super fun mode. Then it says ranked play is also back and coming to Modern Warfare 2. They're really specifying there that it's coming to Modern Warfare 2 and not Warzone. So we're not getting a ranked mode in Warzone. Absolutely boggles my mind why we're not getting this. It seems absolutely insane that we're not getting a ranked mode for Warzone 2. When you look at the success of the ranked mode in Apex, I've got no idea why they're not doing that. But yeah, they're definitely not talking, they're not doing that, and they don't even seem to be hinting that they'll do it in future. Then it says, along with new multiplayer maps, so like I said, it said brand new stuff, so I'm assuming these aren't remakes, so we're actually getting other new maps, which is kind of cool. I do like there being new stuff, but the Modern Warfare 2 maps weren't very good, so I don't know how excited I am about that really. Then it says new modes. When it says new modes, I kind of am expecting it to just be like Gunfight coming back or Capture the Flag coming back or Gun Game or something like that. I would like all of those things to come back, but I'll be surprised if there's actual new modes. And then it says weapons. You know, we always get new weapons. They're hardly ever very interesting. It'll just be like another gun. It'll probably be an assault rifle that's fast firing and super accurate, like the Growl or something like that. You know, something that will just completely ruin the meta in Warzone probably. But that's me being pessimistic. And then it says, and much more. You know, and much more, obviously very vague. Stay tuned for additional intel. Now, it's worth noting, in all of that, they don't mention DMZ at all. There's no mention of it. I wouldn't be surprised if whatever new map we get for Warzone 2 for Battle Royale, we also get for DMZ, because I know DMZ's, you know, a part of Warzone 2 really. But I think it's interesting they don't mention there being new factions or new missions or anything like that for DMZ. I kind of think they're assuming most people still have a bunch of stuff left to do in DMZ. I mean, I play DMZ nearly every day and I still haven't 100% completed all of the missions. So I think most normal people will probably have tons of stuff left to do in DMZ. So I wouldn't be that surprised if we didn't get anything new for it in Season 2 at all, other than you can do the current missions on the new map, like you could in Building 21. Maybe. I don't know. Who knows? But anyway, along with this picture, they also put out another tweet. Infinity Ward tweeted, "We look forward to showing more details on the updates coming to Season 02 in a deep dive studio blog next week." Love that. Super exciting. Like, really love them doing the studio blogs where we get a little bit of an idea of like what they're excited about, what the focus is, why they're doing things maybe. It'll be interesting to see it, especially when recently Respawn did this big blog post about how matchmaking works in Apex. And people have been like, hey, this is awesome. There's loads of like transparency and stuff. I don't expect that from Infinity Ward, but it would be kind of interesting if they did go a bit more into kind of why they're doing some things. Anyway, then it says, this includes exciting changes to Warzone 2, including the gulag, looting, and loadouts. So I think that little kind of tease, we can kind of assume what those changes are going to be. I'm being pessimistic again, but I think the gulag will be, we're going back to 1v1 gulag, so it'll just be like the old Warzone 1 gulag and be exactly the same, and no one will ever have a memorable match in there. Instead, like, everyone will just be, you know, the best player wins, and that's it. You forget about it. Looting, I wouldn't be surprised if backpacks are gone. I wouldn't be surprised if the looting just goes back to like it was in Warzone 1, so you can interact with a container or a player, and then all of the stuff just spews out onto the floor, and you pick up the stuff you want, but you can't have extra plates, you can't have extra kill streaks, you can't have extra self-revives. Maybe they'll even add things that we had in Warzone 1, like lootable perks or something like that, who knows? And then loadouts, and with loadouts I wouldn't be surprised if they went back to being 10,000 in all modes, and you could just buy them really easily, and everyone will have a loadout immediately at the beginning. Maybe there'll even be personal loadouts dropping later in the match. That's kind of my assumption, is that we're just going back to everything being the same way it was in Warzone 1. And I understand lots of people want that. Lots of people think that, like, that's what they want, like, that's what's going to make the game better. And good for them if they're getting what they want. But for me, I was kind of getting bored of Warzone 1 when we were playing in Caldera. Like, we'd been playing that game for 2 years and it didn't really change that much. Like, I know there was lots of nice quality of life changes and lots of ways that it got better over time. But overall, I was kind of getting bored of that gameplay loop. And now it looks like with Warzone 2, they're just walking back everything that's making it different, everything that's making it fresh. And rather than trying to find different ways to make it interesting, different ways to, like, add new things, instead we're just getting stuff back that we had before. And this isn't new to Call of Duty. Like, this has been happening for years with multiplayer, where the game launches in quite a sort of bare bones state at the very beginning, and then over seasons we slowly get back modes we had in previous games, guns we had in previous games, maps we had in previous games. It always feels like the launch of a Call of Duty just takes us back a few months, and then they slowly give us that content again. And it looks like that might be what they're doing with Warzone. You know, they started trying something new, they immediately backed off because there was a sort of negative community reaction. And I know there's going to be some people being like, oh, but what about the number of players dropping off and stuff like that? I still think that's kind of nonsense. Like, everyone's just basing that on Steam charts because that's the only figures we have. And Steam is like the first time that Warzone's been on Steam. Most people on PC are still just on Battle.net because that's where they would be, I assume. I assume that's how it is. And then most people will also be on Xbox and PlayStation, where if you look at like the most played games on Xbox and PlayStation, Call of Duty's still at the top. You know, it's still first or second or third, depending on when you look. These games are doing very, very well. The numbers have been dropping on Steam charts, but then the numbers drop on Steam charts for lots of games. Like, I shared a thing on Twitter a few days ago where it's showing like Grand Theft Auto 5, it dropped off massively. Team Fortress 2, it's had massive drops in the past. Counter-Strike Go, dropped off massively. When a game's new, obviously lots and lots of people play it all at the same time because they play it, you know, everyone's excited. That first weekend, that first night it launches, everyone tries to get on at once. And then after those first few weeks, after those first few months, lots of people stop playing it every day. Lots of people might play it just once a week. They might just not make time for it anymore, but instead just try to fit it into their free time. And that kind of means that it looks like there's a lot less players playing at any given time. That doesn't mean there's less players in total playing it. It just means that maybe people are playing it less frequently than they were when it was brand new and it was fresh and they were exploring everything. I think that's pretty normal. So I'm not worried about like the health of the game's population or anything like that. But I think it's kind of online perception, the discourse around it, the way people talk about it on social media, I think that's been overwhelmingly negative. And, you know, I'm not completely happy with Warzone. There's lots of things that I would like them to change. But definitely it seems like this has encouraged the developers, or encouraged Activision probably, to say, hey, let's maybe go back to some of the things that people liked about Warzone 1. Even if I think in the long run that's going to make the game a little bit more boring, a little bit more stale. Obviously it doesn't matter too much. Like, I'm still playing DMZ a lot, I'm having a good time with that. I don't think DMZ is going to change that much at all, and I'll probably still keep playing Warzone. It just won't be as good as I would have liked to have been. I was so excited when Warzone 2 was first revealed that we were getting something completely fresh, something completely new, something that was really different. And I don't think it was perfect at all, but I thought there was lots of really interesting ideas in there, and it feels like those interesting ideas are just getting pruned away, so we're getting left with a game that we've been playing for years. And some people will be really happy with that, and good for them. Just maybe it's not for me. I really like new games. I like new, interesting games. That's the sort of thing I want. Anyway, this has been a very long ramble, a bit of a rant. Thank you very much to anyone that stuck through listening to all of this. I'm going to leave you with the end of this game, because like I said, I think this was a really good game. And make sure you check the scoreboard at the end, because, you know, I did pretty well. At least I did pretty well for me. If you are enjoying this video, make sure you've hit that like button, consider subscribing, and I'll leave you now with the comms for the rest of this awesome game.
Handful of guys that just entered the observatory below.
It's alright, we can chill up here, we're fine, we're fine.
I can't, because there's a guy on the roof.
Down one, down two.
Two down, DK. Airstrike, airstrike, airstrike.
One of you can get the res.
I'll go get it.
He made no sound.
Oh, I don't have enough money. That's all.
I've
Guys,
got
any
enough, I've
cash?
got enough, I've got enough. Wait, where's the buy? Inside.
Inside.
I got it.
That guy made
good,
no
all good.
sound at all.
I finished off one of them.
I'm gonna risk it.
But there was one
for it.
set up.
Okay, he's underneath me.
Just the one.
Could be two.
No, it's probably 2.
Be out the way. He's at the front entrance.
Firing here.
Down one.
Broken.
More to do.
Well, our roof
He's
is.
Tons of plates and reses and stuff there.
Take the self-res if you can.
Got everything I need.
Cross over.
Just putting ammo down quick.
Nick,
Below us, below us.
don't let him climb up the ladder. Found one. Look for the roof. Look for the roof as well.
Thirst at the guy
Hit
that you
one that's in
downed.
that armor.
We have to dink these before they come out. I've got a gold
Flash
gas
one.
mask. Don't worry about me.
This one's
I
still
don't
down there in
have
the
a gold
gas.
gas mask.
Yes,
One
so
on the
move
edge.
in then. Move in. Smoking yet?
One on my bus.
Dead.
One below me next to the Molotov.
Need to play it
Take
up.
time. Take time. Take time. We need to go up here. Have a peek left.
Very much so.
Drop an ammo box in front of me.
No more gassy for me. I'm out.
Right, I'm gonna have a little peek.
I've still got
Look
more.
in front of us to our right.
There's a guy down here. Up the hill.
Smoke grenade on the hill.
On the hill. Yeah.
On the right, down on.
Let them fight as much as we can. If we can force that team on the right
Left
to
hand
move
side.
in,
Left hand side.
they're going to our right. Going to our right. They're going to be
Play it
down
up
here.
again. I need to play it up.
He's running down the hill.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's one down there at the bottom.
3 people.
He's down.
Right side, bottom right.
I'm going to get a height here.
Yes,
We get this height, we win the game. One's below. Downed him, downed him. Look to the right, look to the right.
I can't. I'm falling.
In front of Geeky.
There you go.
GG's, boys.
I was falling down.
GG.
Man, I'm falling down. I couldn't do
Oh,
anything.
man.
Where we got in the end.
Yeah, no, of course, yeah. It's
Let's
just
see, finish that.
the timing on that was just impeccable. Ouch.